$4.29. That's what a bag of carrots cost me last week at the store near my place for 2 pounds. Grown 3 states away. Trucked here in a refrigerated truck, sitting under fluorescent lights for a week before anyone touched it. I didn't buy it. I walked out to this pile of straw and dirt behind my shed, reached in with my bare hand, and pulled out carrots that tasted better than anything on that shelf. They'd been sitting there since October. It's July now. I haven't bought a root vegetable in 4 years. Not a carrot, not a potato, not a beet, not a turnip. And the method costs about $6 to set up. One time, and it sits right there in plain sight in almost every backyard in America, buried under something most people walk past without a second look. Stay with that thought for a second. I'll tell you what's under there in a minute. My name is Samuel Byler. I grew up Amish in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. My family stored enough root vegetables every October to feed 9 people through a Pennsylvania winter. Without a refrigerator, without a root cellar dug into a hillside, without spending $1 on electricity to keep any of it cold. I want to show you exactly how. By the end of this, you will know how to store carrots, beets, turnips, potatoes, and parsnips for 4 to 6 months without a refrigerator. You will know exactly what materials to use, where to get them, and what they cost. And I'm going to walk you through the actual reason grocery store produce costs what it does, not to make you angry, just so you understand what you're paying for. Stay with me. Here's the honest math. A 5-pound bag of carrots at most grocery stores runs somewhere between $8 and $11 right now. Over a year, if a household eats root vegetables regularly, carrots, potatoes, beets, that's easily $400 to $600, sometimes more depending on where you live. None of that is because carrots are expensive to grow. It's because of everything that happens after they're pulled out of the ground: refrigerated storage, diesel fuel, distribution centers, retail markup on top of retail markup. That's not a secret plot against you. It's just a supply chain. And supply chains cost money, and that cost lands on you. You were just never told there was another way to skip most of it. You're being told now. So here's what actually happens underground and why it works. Root vegetables are still alive after you harvest them. They're not dead the way a steak is dead, they're dormant, the same way a seed is dormant. What they need to stay that way is 3 things: cold, but not freezing darkness, and steady humidity. A refrigerator gives you the first one and fails at the other 2. The ground gives you all 3 for free because soil below the frost line barely changes temperature, even in winter. That's not folklore. That's basic thermal mass, the same principle your local agricultural extension office will tell you if you call and ask about clamping or root cellaring, which is the actual, documented, generations-old term for this. Farmers in cold climate states have used it for as long as there's been a written record of American agriculture, long before refrigeration existed at all. My grandfather did this every October of his life. His grandfather did the same thing, in the same spot, on the same farm. I remember standing next to him at maybe 8 years old, watching him layer straw like he was tucking something in for the night. I asked him why he was being so careful with it, like it mattered. He said because it's still alive, and it needs to sleep right, or it'll spoil before spring. I didn't understand that sentence for another 15 years. I understand it now every single October. Here is what I want you to do. You will need 4 things: a patch of ground that drains well, not low, swampy ground; a bale of straw, which runs about $6 to $8 at almost any feed store or hardware store with a garden section; a shovel; and the vegetables themselves, harvested when they're mature, but before a hard freeze hits. Step 1. Dig a shallow pit, about a foot deep, wide enough to hold what you're storing. You're not burying these 6 feet down. A foot is plenty, because you're about to add insulation on top. Step 2. Line the bottom with a few inches of straw. Lay your root vegetables and carrots and beets can touch, but don't let them bruise each other going in. Cover them completely with more straw, then a layer of soil on top of that, maybe 6 inches. The straw is doing the real work here. It's trapping air, and trapped air is what keeps the temperature steady even when the air above ground is swinging by 30 degrees. Here's the mistake most folks make. They use too little straw and too much dirt. and the whole pile gets damp and moldy instead of staying dry and steady. The straw needs to be thick enough that the vegetables aren't touching wet soil directly. That's the whole trick. Not more dirt, more straw. One more thing my wife taught me, and I didn't believe her the first year. She said, leave a little straw sticking out the top, like a wick. I thought it was superstition. It's not. It lets a little air move through without letting the cold in directly, and it keeps the whole thing from turning into a swamp when it rains. She was right. She usually is. You check on it maybe once a month. Pull back a section, take what you need, cover it back up. That's the whole of it. Now, I have to be honest with you about something, because this is exactly where I see folks get misled, and I won't do that to you. This method does not work everywhere the same way. If you're in a climate that barely freezes, say, coastal areas or the deep south, the ground doesn't hold the same steady cold, and you'll need a shadier spot. Or you may only get 2 or 3 months out of it instead of 5 or 6. And if your soil doesn't drain, this will rot before it stores. What it will do, if your ground freezes even a little in winter and drains reasonably well, is give you months of food with zero electricity and almost no cost. Honest is better than impressive. You didn't forget how to do this. It was set aside from you. A little at a time, one refrigerated truck at a time, one 12-month growing contract at a time. One generation that moved off the farm and into an apartment at a time until buying a bag of carrots in February felt like the only option there ever was. I'm not asking you to live the way I grew up living. I'm asking you to do one thing this weekend. This weekend, here's what I want you to do. 1, pick a well-drained spot in your yard, even a small one. 2, buy 1 bale of straw, $6 to $8. 3, if you've got root vegetables coming out of your garden or on sale cheap at a farm stand, bury your first small batch using exactly what I showed you. 4, mark the spot so you remember where it is in January. Total cost, under $10. Most of it a straw bale you'll still have left over for next year. Tell me in the comments, what has your grocery bill on root vegetables actually been running you per month? I read every one of them. Before I go for the folks who want all 30 of these kinds of methods written out in one place, I put together a manual. It's called the Byler Home Manual. 70 pages. $27. One time. Yours permanently. The link is below. I won't mention it again in this video. If you want it, it's there. If you don't, everything I showed you today is free, and it's yours either way. Next time, I'm going to show you how my mother kept butter fresh for weeks, with no refrigerator at all, using nothing but a crock, water, and the coolest corner of the house. It involves a trick with unglazed clay that almost nobody remembers anymore. I'll show you. I'll see you there. Until then, dig deep. Store smart. And remember, the people who built this country with their hands knew things we're only just starting to remember.